podcast, just being stupid.
They
like that.
Maybe like this? Hello?
Yeah, like this. Like
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Tracy,
Hi, Tracy.
Let me out.
Yeah, really let us out of the machine.
Oh my gosh.
Help me.
Good, I'm recording.
Well, I know I saw it go off and I still did it. So yeah.
You guys are awesome. Hey guys, welcome to the Three Quirky Quilters. Here's our podcast for the week. We're super excited to get back together and do this and talk some more because we just love it, right, ladies?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All righty. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah.
Angela always has that.
Well,
I'm better because I'm with you guys. We'll put it that way.
I did not get my sound effect for when Tracy stumps both Angela and Kathy at one moment and makes us both stare into the computer, into the camera. So I'm waiting.
I'll try not to say anything dorky this time.
No, I think it's fabulous. At this point in the game, yeah, no, I think it's awesome.
Yeah,
All
at
right.
the moment, we
Can't
don't
help
have
it.
a poker face. Any of us.
Oh, poker face.
No, I have my whole world right here. You can tell what's going on. Can't hide nothing.
Yeah, I have that face too. RBF. Yeah, although we decided to name it something different, didn't we, Angela? I have serious RBF. We decided to call it
Active listening face.
ALF instead. Active listening face.
Awesome. That's a good thing. Very good.
So we're
ALF.
not sitting, me especially. And I don't even know I'm doing it. That's the
No.
worst part.
Concentrating. We're concentrating.
Anytime, or if I'm daydreaming, if you're just daydreaming or whatever, like, what's wrong? What are you so upset about? Who, me? Not upset about anything at the moment. Why? Oh, are you sure? Well, if you keep asking me, I'm going to probably have something to be upset about. There's nothing. It's just my face.
There
Your
you
face
go.
is beautiful. You don't let them say mean things about you.
I don't know. Anyway,
You guys are good. How about let's talk about what's right below my chin right here. A quilt intake. Doing quilt intakes because it's super important to some, maybe not to all, and different levels, right? All right. Who wants- Oh Lord, we're never gonna get through this.
Okay.
What'd I do? What'd I do? Today's a blooper session. All bloopers. Nothing but
Oh.
bloopers on the Three Quirky Quilters.
I just need a minute. Just a minute. Okay.
Oh, look.
All right. Okay.
On a serious note, there's a
Let's try to be responsible for 5 minutes.
I didn't even give 5 seconds.
we instantly start giggling. Guess who had dinner with Don Kavanaugh, Tracy? And it wasn't me.
It wasn't me. Really?
And what did she say?
She watches our podcast.
Hi, Dawn. Hello, Dawn. I love her so much.
Me too.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, so that's enough to make all three of us cry, right?
I know, we're all crying here. Oh, woo.
all right. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Because we
All
miss
right,
her.
You what?
Because we miss her.
Yes,
No,
we do.
No, what?
we
Yes.
do. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what are we talking about again? Quilt?
We're talking about quilt intake.
Quilt intake.
Not
How
very well.
important is it?
Yeah.
Some people have them, some people don't. It's okay. Some are formal, some are informal.
No,
Right?
about as
Informal as they get.
informal as you can get. Yep. So I'll go last because I'm apparently the deviant one, the deviant child in the group.
No.
I think we should go in order of severity. So I think Kathy should go first.
I asked for the blood types of their firstborn children. No, I'm just kidding.
Or credit card numbers and
No.
yeah.
My intake form has definitely evolved over time. From when I was in my basement, super simple. I had very minimal quilts to take care of. Nobody else was handling them me. So very simple. Kathy had her little spreadsheet. We just worked through it. It was great, at least so I could keep track of myself. Then as I kept getting more and more, my spreadsheet changed into there's a simple program. I don't know if it's out there anymore that helped me like calculate things and put in my price points and my batting and give a nice little receipt for customers. Is it Machine Quilters thing? I can't remember what it is. Anyway.
Are you okay? Wait a minute. Are you okay?
I'm trying really hard with my face.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. It gets better.
Like, oh my God.
Oh, no.
I'm
Talking to each other.
I'm already overwhelmed just
Yeah.
by the word spreadsheet.
Oh, you have a list, don't you?
No. There's
Ding, 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 ding. And we're at that point.
And we're at that point.
All right. Sorry. Carry on, Kathy.
You're fine. And then when we got to the store, I really didn't have a formal. I took the customer's name in and wrote their name down and put them in order in the back of the store. And something happened where a quilt got lost. I'll just be honest.
Oh, crap.
I mean, yeah, like gut wrenching it tore my heart apart, and I cried and I cried and I mean, this is serious business, right? So, oh, it did not. That needs to be edited out.
We may have to start this again, guys.
No, this is just nothing but full bloopers.
Kathy said it.
I know. And then you said it.
Well, because she said it, I repeated her. That doesn't count.
It's part of my vernacular, so it doesn't matter to me. All right.
So we went spreadsheets to, we had an intake where a customer quilt got lost. So then what we started doing is thinking about our machine repair and the quilt intake at the same time, where we really never, the previous people that we bought the store from did a carbon copy, little old school, write things down and just hand it out. And that you just assume that they had the machine there. Well, in order to protect ourselves, not necessarily, protect ourselves and protect our customers, we started putting our numbering system with our whole point of sale system and put a number system that I put a sticker on the intake sheet, and the sticker that gets applied to that hangs with the quilt, and then the customer gets a receipt with that same number on it. So we have that, we know that we have it, and you know that I have it. And it's been a wonderful gift for things like when I had a lady pass away. And so at least they knew where to go to get a quilt, that grandma had this quilt out there, right? So It's a double fold thing. Then over time, I just did a basic intake, what like pantograph you liked, what thread color, and we just write down we'd write down the number if it wasn't something like light gray or lead gray or mocha, things like we use on a normal basis, right? But then I had a mishap of a misunderstanding, and I don't, I'm probably a little bit more forgiving, I guess, but now we put down that they have to tell us that this is the way they, we want it, the pantograph to go across certain ways if it's directional, which way is up, things like that. And to sign off on it, that they said, yes, this is the thread color they want, and things like that. In the end, I feel like it's a win-win for the customer, and it's a win-win for us. I have my staff measure the top the batting and the backing to make sure everything fits. So when we come to load it later at a later date, that something's not too short. And then we have to wait for something to get replaced. I mean, I want to make sure everything is good when it comes in. Go through with them, talk with them, especially new quilters, on what's important. So my staff is pretty fabulous with that. And then we have on the sheet who loaded it, who unloaded it, how many bobbins you used. So when I go to tally everything, that it will help me at the register.
You wouldn't be able to work with me.
I think I would.
I would drive you mental in less than one day.
It's because I have people who around me that are organized, not me. I did not put this sheet together. My people around me helped me put the sheet together. I would be more in your camp, Tracy, because that's the way I have staff that takes care of me.
Right.
I really do have staff that takes care of me and helps me get, hey, where did I put my scissors? And they're like, Kathy, it's in your back pocket. Oh, okay. That kind of thing.
Oh.
I mean, it's definitely, to me, my quilt intake form has been a living, breathing document that changes when we need to change it and when we need to make it better or when we need to take something out.
Right.
How long have you been working on your document?
Oh, since I started in my basement.
What? How many years have you been doing this is what I'm asking.
Well, 8 years? Yes. When did I start? Yeah. Yes. It's been a breathing document that's changed.
Okay.
So whenever we see something that protects the customer and us, or us and the customer, because sometimes, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
Because when I intake a form, when I bring in a quilt and I think how beautiful it is, and then 3 or 4 or 5, 6 weeks later, because I have a lot of quilts, especially after COVID, I have like a lot more quilts, right? And I have a lady who drops off 6 to 8 quilts at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And usually then the other lady who drops off 6 to 8 quilts comes in like the next day. Like they are on the same rhythm.
I think they talk to each other.
Yeah. And then I think I'm going to remember, and I'm not going to remember. So it's more to help to make sure that I follow through on what I promised to the customer.
Right.
And it doesn't matter there's many different ways. I think I don't know about you guys, but when we sit down and I teach people who bought their long arm how to do it. I said, here's a great sample that Don Cavanaugh gave us in our little book, but you got to make it your own. Mm-hmm. Now that my big diatribe and big heavy hitter is over, how about you, Angela?
I think I fall between the two of you, to be quite honest with you. I do have an intake form, and I would say probably for the first 7 to 8 years that I used the form, there was a lot of editing on it. I haven't edited it in probably 8 years at this time. I just put the new year on it every year, but we still use a spreadsheet. And it's a Google Doc. So,
right.
Or Google spreadsheet, right?
Google
so
Docs are awesome.
Well, yeah. And the reason I do that is that then I have a list of the customer's name, what their quilt looked like, their phone number, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if something happens to my showroom, I know whose quilts I had, and it's held on the cloud. It's not just at my showroom. So at one point I just kept a list, right? And then eventually it went up onto Google Docs and it stayed up there ever since then. But yeah, and they do get a number when they come in, and they're done in the order that they come in, for the most part, unless they're custom. If they're custom quilters are usually given
a wide window.
Well, yeah, like a year. Like custom quilting, especially if they want me to custom quilt it personally, it's a year. It's the date we give them. So, and then edge to edge quilting, depends on any time of the month or what. It depends on when it is. We've recently added another quilt path, so we really don't have a backup right now, which is really strange to me. Where they're coming in still steadily, but they're also going out steadily too, which is awesome.
That's good.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of nice. But yeah, we ask them, we pull, we have them pick out their pantograph. We have them pick out their thread color, at least for the top thread, sometimes not for the back thread. We talk density with them a little bit. We do measure the quilt top, and my staff is really good about measuring the backing and the batting if they're not purchasing batting from us. I'm not as good about that. I just fold them in quarters and make sure they're bigger and put them in the closet. And then
my staff is way better than me. My staff is so much better than me. I'm just like, sure, Susie, I'll take that for you.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that they're really glad that I'm not there more than I am because I cause problems. But it's, I still have a lot of quilters that'll come in and say, quilter's choice. And that comes back from being a free motion quilter. And I have a feeling this is why I kind of am in between the two of you, right? Is that when you are free motion quilting somebody's quilt, there's a lot of quilter's choice that ends up going on in that. And I have a lot of customers that have been with me since the very beginning that are just going to let me do whatever I want to on their quilt. That kind of, it is a little scary to a staff member, right? Especially new staff members, that the customer just come in and said, no, you can put whatever you want on my quilt. And typically they'll call me and I'll say, put this on their quilt, right? Because I know the customers pretty well, most of my customers. Now, I have staff members that have those relationships with my customers too, which is great, that they can pick for the customers, and they do. But I'm kind of sliding my customers over to, you choose. You can have anything in this big, huge book you want, right? Write it down. And it's a little easier when you have other people quilting with you to make sure that the customers are getting what they want. I do make them sign a form. Yeah, we track stuff. I don't make my staff track bobbins anymore because we don't charge for bobbins anymore. When I first started quilting, I had to charge for bobbins separately than for my labor, because at that point, North Carolina wasn't charging tax on labor, but they were charging tax on property, right? So bobbins are a product that has to be put into something. So I had to charge a tax on the product, but not on my quilting services. Well, that changed. Now it's been like 6 years ago, right? So they get charged tax either way. So I'm not worried about those bobbins anymore. We changed more to, if you breed in this state, we're going to charge you tax. So, I mean, we even charge tax on shipping, guys. So everything gets taxed.
Same here.
Yeah. So yeah, it's made my life easier because I used to have to track every bobbin that went into a quilt. I don't anymore. I guess if I wanted to know what density it would be, I could, but I built it into my quilting prices after that.
Right.
So yeah.
Now that I freaked you out, Tracy, your turn to freak me out.
Tracy's just like, I am free and it's easy and it works.
Yep.
When I first started long arming, I was teaching piecing classes at a quilt shop. So my original customer base, pretty much 100% was coming from my piecing students, right? I would teach a class, and at the end of the class, half, 3/4, all of them, whatever, would hand me all their stuff at the end of the class and say, work your magic. And I would take them all home in bags and then get them all, and then get them all done and bring them all back. Right from the very beginning, I've never had people pick out pantographs, pick out designs, pick out thread color. And probably just because as a free motion quilter, and I guess maybe because they were my students that were taking piecing classes. And of course, I was at the time quilting all the samples that were in the shop. So my work was everywhere. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it started out with just take it home, just do whatever. I trust you. And that's just the way it kind of evolved.
Mhm.
And then, because in the beginning I would say, well, do you want feathers, or, do you want flowers, or like, I can quilt anything, whatever shapes you want. I'll do it all. And they'd say, I don't care. Just do your thing. The odd time somebody would say, well, just don't put flowers on. I don't like flowers. Even though the fabric may have said, please put flowers on me, that customer didn't want flowers, even though the quilt was very flowery or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then I quilted out of my basement for a long time before I opened the shop. So I was taking students' quilts home and quilting them and bringing them back.
Mhm.
So there was no time for intake forms or anything like that anyways, because I was at my job, my regular job, right? Now, she never minded that I was taking quilts home, and she was always happy. Like, that was just fine. That was worked. But I always made sure that it didn't interfere with me doing my job at the shop. So I just take them home, and then people would come back to pick them up. And I would always say, like, I'm done at 4 or whatever. So come after 4 to pick it up, because I don't want my business to be interrupting my work here, kind of thing. Right. And, yeah. And I guess I remember having an intake form once, many years ago, but I always forget.
I remember having one once.
I do. I remember making it and being so proud of myself all those years ago, because I made it up on the computer, but I didn't take them to work with me to the shop. So there was no time to have people fill all that stuff out. Yeah, it was just very relaxed. Just take these home and do them. And it just kind of evolved that way. And then, like I said, I tried an intake form. I always forgot to fill it out anyways. And nobody ever had thoughts about what they, or specific, I want this on it, I want that on it. I'm the one who explains directional quilting to people, and they're like, I don't care, just do your thing, right? So it's always been that way.
That's awesome.
So when I get a quilt, even from new people, when they come in, I make sure that all their contact information is there. I mean, I'm not completely irresponsible. Their name, no, seriously. Like, I'm going from Kathy's, like, I'm trying not to let my eye tick when I'm listening to her setup. But again, I'm the only one here. So if there's a quilt underneath my long arm, one of my long arms to be quilted, I'm the one who put it there. I'm the one that talked to the customer, and I'm the one that put it there. I know how long it's been there. I know in what order it came in. So I guess that's like one very rare benefit of working alone, is I don't ever have to guess where something is, because I put it there. So I know I take much better care of my clients' quilts than I do my scissors and my marking pens and my phone and my keys. I know where all my customer quilts are.
Right. That's awesome. No, you're right. Having people help you is hard. It's good, but it's hard, because we all have to think the same when we all don't think the same.
Yeah. So I'm still very relaxed. Like, I make sure that all their information, I do ask them when they come in. They trust that I'm going to quilt it when it comes to density and style. They trust that they're going to get it quilted at the right density for the way it's pieced. I have a really good feel for what the quilt wants. I know it sounds really silly, but the quilts, they speak to us, right?
Yes.
They tell us what they want. Usually I can look at a quilt, like, you just lay it over the frame and I can see it quilted. And I don't very often second guess myself. Right. But I do ask them as well when they bring it in. I say, okay, so who's it for? And I find out who it's for, and that gives me an indication. And then I'll say, well, what if somebody dropped off 3 or 4 quilts the other day, and one of them is a wedding quilt. And so she said to me, this is a wedding quilt. So it's for the husband and wife together. And the quilt is very nondescript in that the fabrics are all sort of tonal. There's no flowers, there's no leaves, there are no graphics. It's just all blendy, blendy, blendy. It could have beautiful ornate feathers on it, but I'm not going to do that because it's for a husband and a wife. But in that situation, the fabrics aren't really, it's not clear cut. It could go either way, which is why I ask who it's for, you know. And they just let me do my thing. And I've never touched a hunk of wood somewhere. Never had a problem. Everybody loves it. You know, everybody's fine. I choose the thread colors, and it's just the way that goes. So, yeah.
But you wouldn't be opposed to somebody saying, "I'd really like khaki thread on this quilt."
No.
Yeah.
Unless
really.
it's a blue and white quilt and they want khaki thread, then I might very gently say, I don't know about that.
Let's look at that. Well, yeah. And
that's
I mean,
right.
Let's puddle thread on that and make sure that's really what you want before I do that. Right.
Yeah. But I only have one customer. She's a lovely lady. And I quilted, the first time I quilted for her, I did a pattern called Alpine Grand. It's a cute little flower. It's quite dense, actually. It's very intricate. It's a little flower with these curls and whatever. Anyways, I did this quilt for her, and she loved it so much. She didn't ask me for it, but that's what she got, and she loves it, and it's white thread. Every quilt that lady has brought me ever since has Alpine Grand, and it's stitched in white thread. That's what she wants. So that's what I do.
And you're listening to your customers is what I think what Angela is saying. You're listening to your customers, and that's what all of us are doing. We just have different amounts of people who help us, I think, along the way, and I have to convey that all the way through the steps. That's why I have a more regimented form.
Well, you have lots of people touching them and taking them in and putting them places and all that, and quilting them, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a large lineup anymore either. But I've got 4 systems set up, all with Quilt Path. And then poor Lenny, he's covered up underneath Lucy and his frame's behind the white curtain. So I technically have 5, but I have 4 Quilt Path systems. So I can quilt 4 people's quilts at a time. So it doesn't take me, you know, I don't have weeks and weeks and weeks that people are waiting when they bring me a quilt.
We're working on that. That's our next little goal, is to help along and move things through faster. So one step at a time.
Yeah, I'm only short 1 Quilt Path for machines now. So yeah.
That's good. Yeah, my Lenny's the only one who doesn't have a QP.
My Millie is. My Lenny has a QP on it. So
My poor Lenny, sitting underneath Lucy, and he's covered in fabric to keep him clean, and his frame's behind the curtain. I don't have any space for him at the moment.
So I guess the whole thing, would be interesting is just everybody has to come to their own. It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to teach or explain to people that, it's good if you, there's obviously things that need to be on there, the customer's name and phone number, and maybe some places to write some notes. So you can maybe write some notes down if you need to, just because I forget things, if you have some, kind of thing. But thread color, we have just started putting the actual number on there because of a situation that we had. And I just want to make sure that my employees are protected as well, because some people, some things have happened, and I just want to make sure my employees are protected as well. And also with the customer, that we are specifically this thread, yes, and write it down, kind of thing.
Well, and that's probably more important for you too as well, because like with me, I'm the only one that's making any of these decisions. So I don't ever have to worry that I would come to work one day and somebody had quilted a customer's quilt and I didn't like it. Like I didn't like what they chose or the thread color that they, you know what I mean? Like I don't have any of that to take into consideration. So it's just really relaxed for here.
Right. And it works for you. So that's just the thing. What we need to do is, like, whether it be Google Sheets, whether it be that program that you had, whether it be, I don't know, there's all kinds of different avenues that people have to make a intake situation form, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
right? Many different avenues. One is not right, or they're just different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, I do on my page that goes in the thing with their information, it's got a description of the quilt and whether or not I'm supplying batting and like, all those things for grandson or wedding gift or whatever. I write notes so that 2-3 weeks down the road when I go to quilt it, I'm not trying to remember the conversation I had with them. Right? So I do
That's
write
the
notes.
struggle, right? Yeah.
I'm not a total vagabond.
Never said you were. And I'm not totally regimented either, because there's some of those forms that Kathy has taken in that just has the customer name and a color, sort of, maybe.
Oh, mine will say customer's name, phone number to call her for, and it'll have a big QC on it, which means quilter's choice.
Yeah.
I'm the worst, and I know I am, but I also know that I can get away with it, right? It's harder if I've never met the customer, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I will say that I do have lots of people who help me throughout this day with my quilting, but I am in that room pinging and checking and following through and looking and seeing and watching my staff. I'm in and out of there all day long to make sure.
And that would be the difference in my case. The two of you are in your showrooms every day. Every day you're open, right? You're pretty much there. I am almost never in my showroom now. It is the weirdest situation. So if I'm there, I'm just, throwing a wrench into the system at this point. Not really. I mean, because, yeah, like.
But do you track who quilts a quilt then? Because you have how many people quilting for you? 3 or 4?
6.
Okay. Right. So
employees, yeah.
That's 6. Wow, that's like so cool. So I always set the quilt path up, and my daughter who's like amazing at loading quilts, and I always set the quilt path up and get it rolling and set the design up, and then let her go.
I have to trust them. I have to, because I can go, 2 weeks without going into my showroom at all. So, yeah, I have to be, I have people I can trust. I know I can trust them. They handle it, and it lets me do everything else I have to get done. So, and they know they can call me at any point. I mean, I talk to people today, so, but I'm just not physically inside my showroom, which this is not where I am now. It's both not where I want to be, nor is it where I thought I would be. Right.
Sure.
I didn't open a showroom to not be there. So I'm hoping that will change a little bit.
Do you have customers specifically asking for a quilter?
They have people that they feel comfortable with. So like they know certain people work on certain days. So if they want a specific person to at least talk to, they will come in on the day that they work. Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
And there are, I would say, 2 quilters that do the bulk of the quilting. So, and people know when they work. So, yeah.
Well, that's cool. So, I mean, there's still that relationship, and that's pretty, that's what I think most important that this is the quilt intake form for me is to help my relationship with my customer and with my staff, that we all are happy and we're not causing angst in the whole day.
And you have to think, I have 3 of those 6 people own their own machines. They own APQS machines with Quilt Path themselves.
Wow.
So that's a little bit different too, right? Than a lot of our showrooms don't employ people that own their own systems, but it works really well for me here. I mean, they definitely know their systems. They know my system. They know theirs at home. They're a little bit different because obviously my systems are a little newer than theirs are. My quilt paths are different because I have the new quilt paths, and and they have legacy quilt pads, but the software's the same. So they just go with it. And at least one of them is a professional quilter in her own right and has her own customers.
That's cool.
So,
Wow, that's awesome that she works for you. That's incredible.
it's working great.
What a great relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but you also have to have people you trust. I trust these ladies with everything. I trust with something that's extremely important to me. So, I trust them with everything. So, yeah, I had no question that they're going to do what's right for the company,
Right.
So, yeah.
So
it's worked out so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that happened when I first started. The very first person that I hired to help me was one of my renters and a very close friend. She's still a close friend. And bless her heart, she came to work for me, and a week later I was gone, and I was gone for 3 weeks.
Oh.
So, yeah, because I was traveling through Texas teaching Quilt Path, and
Wow.
she didn't really know Quilt Path. I left her with like 15 quilts of my mom's and said, do whatever you want to do on them. They're mom's quilts. She'll be happy with any of them, with anything you do. And she did an awesome job. But she learned Quilt Path on my mother's quilts.
That's amazing. Wow. That is some good trust there. Holy cow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, and she worked for me for, I think, 4 years. So, yeah, until she actually moved. I had a showroom in a different location, and I've moved, and I moved farther from where she lived. She was already driving 45 minutes to come and work for me one way every day. And then we moved a little farther, and the commute just got to be too much, unfortunately. I would move back if she'd come back, though.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm not moving again. I'm not moving again. Or no. Not moving the store again.
At some point I may need more space, but right now, it's my location is perfect for what I do.
Good.
So it's small. It's only 1,500 square feet. It's small, but it's bigger than what I used to have. So I felt like it was huge when I moved into it. Now I'm like, where am I going to put another long arm?
Yours is bigger than mine. Mine's 1,300 square feet.
Yeah, but in some ways, I think yours is laid out better than mine is.
Well, it's long, right?
Yeah.
So the first shop was the same square footage as this place, but it was a big square, and it had those big posts in the center, which really messed up. It was beautiful and bright and really sunny and big and open and lovely with all those windows.
Oh, yeah.
But I had 3 machines there, and that took up pretty much all the space.
Yeah.
And here I've got 4 set up. And if I had to, Lenny could go right in this little kitchen area. If I had to, I could get a 5th one up. And I think it's just, there's nothing in the way, and it's long and narrow, right? Narrower than the other place, but longer.
Yeah.
So the machines are just configured differently, so they fit better, and it feels bigger here.
And when I used to have 2 10-foot frames and and 3, at one point I had 2 10-foot frames and 4 12-foot frames, right? And I could fit them in my current space. But with 12-foot frames, only 12-foot frames, it is tight with 4 machines.
I have 14-foot frames.
But you have your space for your long arm is the size of my whole
I know. I'm not.
I'm
just saying. And we planned it, and we took a couple of years. We bought this store with 3,000 square feet, just primarily a rental program.
Yeah.
Started adding, and we became so cramped because I had to get all of this fabric in order to move it to this new place, right? So we were uber cramped. It was awful. But we made it work somehow. And then we moved to this new space, and it's filled up pretty darn quickly. But we sat, and because the thing about that open square foot space and then having fabric, people would go up standing next to my rental. They'd be like, "So, what you doing?" And I'm like, "They're renting time. Leave them alone." Like I'm uber protective over my customer who's renting time. Like they are there trying to get something done. They're not there to entertain you and tell you what they're doing. Not that they wouldn't love to do that. And they've been really phenomenal. That's why we made a whole room just for the long arms with windows on it. But there's just one room with doors. And even now we're closing the doors more and more because I don't want people going in there.
Well, and you've put your production long arms at the front of that room too. So your long armers, your renters are even more protected because it's the back machines, the rental machines.
Right.
And I've kind of done the opposite because my classroom area is in the back of my store. So when there's big groups and stuff there, if we're still quilting, I don't want my renters to feel cramped. So I put them up towards the front.
Oh, that makes that again, you're protecting your renters, right? We're doing
it's all
the
about
same
protecting
thing.
them.
Yeah.
But you do have people walk in. Like I have people that are going to the dentist next door that'll walk in and go, "What do you guys do here?" And they'll start talking to my renter, and I'm like, let's talk over here away from them.
Right.
But yeah, and we're all really good at distracting them and getting them away. But it's it's just different.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, with that, ladies, we're close to a half an hour, if not over.
Yeah. Well, we played around for the first 15 minutes, so
Ish. I can't do it. Here, talk to the hand.
How rude.
It's not rude. It's an eyeball.
No. Kathy said, talk to the hand. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
that's so rude.
She's rude.
That's rude.
All right, ladies. It has been so lovely. And it really has. What does it say?
Some people just need a high five in the face with a chair.
With a chair. I don't know how to take that personally. Was that aimed towards me? Again?
No. Life is good. You should get one.
Tracy's been making cups again.
Fabulous.
Tracy's
How about
been
we
making
see you guys later? Have an awesome evening.
Are we done?
I think so.
Kathy says we're done. We're done.
For this podcast, yes, we are done. Right?
Right.
Awesome. See you later, everybody.
And remember to, over at the Quilting Academy, thumbs up, share, and subscribe.
Yep.
Right?
It's free.
It was fabulous talking to you, ladies.
You too.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.